This week, the temperature in the US presidential election has become even more febrile after Hillary Clinton nearly collapsed and confessed she has pneumonia. It sparked a frenzied round of speculation about whether her health is good enough to be president. You could be forgiven for thinking there are only two candidates in the race for the White House, given the attention lavished on Clinton and her Republican rival Donald Trump. But buried under the Trump-Clinton avalanche are some other independent candidates for president, among them a Libertarian and a Green. There's also ex-CIA agent Evan McMullin, an anti-Trump candidate being backed in by some Republican heavy hitters. Zoe Daniel caught up with him in Washington.
Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton dominate the airwaves. Almost every move is broadcast live.
Hillary Clinton getting in to her vehicle and seeming to have some trouble standing.
But in spite, or perhaps because of all the exposure, they're the most unpopular presidential candidates in US history. And many Americans are looking for someone else to vote for.
It is 61 days until the election.
There is another choice.
Enter Evan McMullin. He's by no means the only independent candidate in the race. But the ex-CIA agent and former Republican policy officer is backed by the anti-Trump movement. Ideally, he'd like to win a state or two to prevent either of the major candidates from getting enough support to win the election outright and forcing Congress to appoint an alternative president. It's a blue sky aspiration, but at the very least, he says he's offering a choice to moderate Republicans, which could lead to a new political movement after the election. Evan McMullin, great to talk with you. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you.
You've been in the race for about 3 or 4 weeks now.
3 weeks, yeah.
So late to this. Can your presence in the race actually change anything, or is it just a case of shaking things up, rocking the boat?
Entering the race at this late stage is clearly not ideal, and no one feels that more than I do, I think, in this country. I feel it on a daily basis. I entered the race at this point because after waiting so long for someone else, hopefully with national name identification and maybe an infrastructure in place, waiting for them to step forward and do what I'm doing, I realized that was not going to happen, and that if I wanted it to happen, I was going to have to do it myself.
Well, the fact that lots of clever people, lots of high-profile people elected not to step in, that says a lot, though, doesn't it? That firstly, they obviously didn't think they could win, and secondly, perhaps they felt that would be betraying a democratic process because Republicans voted for Donald Trump to be the candidate.
Well, what I'm doing is part of the democratic process. I mean, we're certainly working within the laws of our country, and there can be independent candidates, and I am an independent candidate. That's part of our system. With regard to others not stepping in and for what the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have done, look, I would say that 82% of Americans, according to Gallup, believe the country's on the wrong track. 42% of Americans consider themselves independent now. And both of the two major party candidates have historically high negative ratings in the eyes of the American people. This country needs political change.
How difficult was it for you as a Republican to go against the Republican leadership by stepping into this? Because in a sense, you've defied them by running against Donald Trump.
Well, I don't exactly see it that way, really, because I know what a hard time many members of the Republican Party leadership have had with Donald Trump. I think, certainly I have some different ideas about how that could have been handled, certainly, but I know they've struggled with it. Donald Trump is somebody who offends the sensibilities of true conservatives. He is not a conservative at all. So, but I have charted a different course, that's true. It was a very difficult decision, but I'm an American first. That's the thing. That's the first thing to understand about me. I'm an American first. I'm a conservative second in political terms. And then thirdly, I think about party.
Well, it seems to me that many of those senior Republicans who have deep-seated doubts about Donald Trump have actually swallowed their principles for the sake of the party by accepting him as the candidate.
I think what you're saying is there's some truth to that. But I don't. It's not a permanent thing, and that's my message to Republicans and to really all Americans. Donald Trump has brought to light some struggles that Americans have had, wage stagnation and lack of job opportunities. He's given voice to people that previously didn't feel like they had a voice. That's all real, and we need to take it into consideration. But he's also done a lot of very negative things to this country, dividing our country, race against race, religion against religion. These are things that don't make us stronger, they make us weaker. So my message to all Americans, and especially to conservatives and Republicans, is that no matter where you've been vis-a-vis Donald Trump previously, it's never too late to do the right thing.
So let's look at that. There's talk that if you won even one state, that could prevent either candidate from getting the 270 majority that they need for the Electoral College, in which case the House would then appoint a president, which could be you. Is that actually a realistic possibility?
Well, there was a poll in Utah, for example, where we're headquartered 8 days after I announced the race, and we had spent essentially nothing in advertising there, and I'd spent a day and a half only on the ground during that period, and already we were polling at 9%.
But Utah's your heartland, isn't it? I mean, where else can you find support? And you're also facing the issue of deadlines in some states that will prevent you from even getting onto the ballot.
We've long said that we don't believe it's possible, or very likely at least, that we can win a majority of Electoral College votes in the election because we're just at it so late. But can we win states? Absolutely. Can we impact the election in certain key states? Absolutely. Can that have an overall impact on the race? Absolutely it can.
Are we heading to a point where a new party is going to emerge from this year's, I won't call them ruins, but machinations?
There needs to be change in this country. Now, will the two major parties be able to offer that change? I think it's very difficult for them, truly very difficult, given the support that they depend on from established relationships and commitments they've made. But I think there is still hope for them if they make serious changes quickly. But if not, then we are looking, I think, at a time when we will need a new movement in this country.
Great to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you.